think it affects every part of my life. The way I relate to people, the way I manage my life.
You just ended up being labelled and like stereotyped, and then you become like a stereotype of a person with Asperger's.
It's kind of a toss-up, is it a nature or a nurture thing as to why I've been able to push my own boundaries, why I'm able to do things that other people aren't necessarily able to.
Autism is part of yourself, it's not an external thing, it's not an illness, it's not a disease, it's part of who you are, and so to know that is like knowing your gender.
The name of the research study is Autism in Pink. It was set up because recently research is starting to indicate that there are more women with autism than were originally thought to be, and also that their profile is somewhat different from that of men.
There's been an increasing recognition that autism is underdiagnosed in women and girls, and we do know from our clinical work that a number of girls present in other services later in life who've not been diagnosed, and they have had quite significant problems as a result of that lack of diagnosis.
I was diagnosed when I was 16 at Great Ormond Street Hospital. I had a 4-hour assessment. You know, I went out the room for a few minutes and I came back and I had the words Asperger's syndrome. And I mean, my first thought was, what's hamburger asparagus syndrome? You know, I never heard of it before. You know, my parents hadn't heard of it before.
I was diagnosed when I was 25, so it's about 6.5 years ago now. And it was a relief, really, to know for certain.
My parents always knew that I was autistic. I displayed autistic symptoms or autistic traits very early on. I wouldn't snuggle up to my mum when I breastfed. I didn't point at things. I didn't have joint attention, etc. So, you know, I was ticking all the boxes for autism, but because I was a girl, I suppose that it wasn't picked up in the same way that it might have been if I'd been male.
A lot of people meet me and say, oh, you don't seem like you are on the spectrum, you seem perfectly normal, or, you know, other people tend to doubt it. And so that sometimes leads me to doubt it. It was only when I was about 20 at university that I read something about Asperger's syndrome, and I realised that was definitely described me.
The diagnosis process was hard, but once we got it, the relief was palpable.
She was a very little girl. She was 5 years old, and she was very lucky because she was an orphan, but she went to a diagnosis center, a development center, and they diagnosed her as being autistic. So she had support since she was a little kid. That was good, but it's really true what we found in research, that the diagnosis for girls is more difficult.
The study is a European study funded by the EU, and there are 4 partner countries, which are the UK, Spain, Lithuania and Portugal.
Some of the countries had pretty well established groups, Portugal and Spain, so that these were women that they already knew. In the UK, these women were not known to us at all. They just came together for the first time. In Lithuania, they're working with a government agency that provides services for people with learning disabilities and autism. So each of the groups is really quite different. We decided that the format that we would use would be the Personal Wellbeing Index, which really fits in very nicely with the EU idea of quality of life. So each session was devoted to a domain of the Personal Wellbeing Index. The domains are able to be interpreted quite flexibly, which is good for autism because it means that you don't have to be too fixed about what is a good quality of life. You know, everyone chooses to be as much a part of their community as is right for them.
Hopefully that women actually get something out of the project themselves, from sharing their experiences and meeting other women on the spectrum.
this opportunity is like a butterfly. If you don't catch the butterfly, it disappears. So I decided I'll catch that butterfly.
We're working on the theme of personal relationships in this workshop. Personal relationships is very important to women with autism because relationships just affect every area of our lives, our relationships with our parents, our relationships with friends, relationships with our partner or making a partnership with someone.
I have a really good relationship with my mum, but she really understands autism.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My dad doesn't really get it, and our relationship has suffered because of it.
I think my mum has looked up a lot about autism since I got diagnosed because she wanted to know how to support me better. But I think my dad just kind of has more of a natural understanding of me, and often if I need some help or advice, it's actually my dad who can offer that best.
Boys have lots of big pens, but girls only have one iPod friend.
My mum was looking for ways to communicate with me because I didn't communicate in the stereotypical way. And one of the things she tried was playing the guitar to me, and that was good because we had both had a joint area of attention, but it wasn't based around making eye contact, because for some people on the autistic spectrum, eye contact can be painful. For me, I just found eye contact didn't make a lot of sense to me, and it was only through reading what a journalist wrote about me that I learnt about how to make eye contact like a non-autistic person.
I think of all the people in my life, my mum is best at understanding me. It's really good to have that sort of relationship, but then it's also really difficult because I become too dependent on her in a way.
Emily doesn't really, well, she doesn't have a social network, she doesn't have friends in her life, so I am essentially her best friend as well.
In some ways, I'm not completely isolated, but I just feel that I'm lacking the proper friendships that I'd really like to have. There are steps I need to take, but I don't know what they are, so I'm a bit stuck. I don't know how to go from colleagues to friends. I don't really know how to make that step.
I feel like the internet gives me the ability to have that sort of interaction with other people about things that are important to me. Even if I'm not having like a direct conversation, I can be a member of a group on Facebook. I don't think of people on the internet as my friends. I just think it gives me some sort of social aspect that I'd otherwise not have.
I always felt different, like the black sheep, and I like being with other kinds of people. I don't mind, but I ask for a little respect.
Celia is a person very warm, and she loves having loves in her life. She expresses her feelings, and she has a very high and powerful sensitivity to other people, how other people felt. Sometimes she feels so much from the environment that she became stressed.
You know, Anna Claudia is social, even if she doesn't speak, and she is deaf and she is autistic too, but you know, she likes to be among other people.
She can express very well using the work, the tools that art gives. She likes very much to learn. Everything that we made that is new for her, she wants to learn everything. She wants to connect with us by the work. When she's going to finish that, she's going to do me like that. That's a way of asking me if it's okay, if I like, okay. Vamos levar a Luísa. Vamos levar a Luísa. A Luísa vai ficar.
So we haven't talked much about partners, that because people don't want to talk about partner. And I'm happy not to if people don't want to.
It's more just not having much to say.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose I've spent most of my life kind of figuring out friendships that I'm happy now. I've got that sorted in my head. I can't be bothered to make the next leap to working out the romantic side of things. It's too complicated for the moment.
I met my husband online on Match.com, which seemed to work well because then you can build up a relationship before you actually get to meet them. I would never have initiated anything, first kisses or anything. It's all down to him. I would just sit there and move as far away from that person as possible, which I can see would give the wrong signal to men a lot of the time.
Personal health is a really important area as it covers a lot of different areas of their lives, including energy levels. Those are massively important to women with autism because of the masking that they're doing a lot of time takes up their energy. Mental health is also really important as stress levels and anxiety are really an issue.
Del acceso a la salud, o sea, de si nos gustan las inyecciones, si sentimos que se nos comprende cuando hay campañas de vacunación, ¿cómo lo vivís esto?
Porto mejor porque pienso, es solo un segundo y se acabó. Luego cuando voy a comenzar que se acabe, pues eso. I've been having a lot of symptoms, like physical symptoms, that I haven't been able to identify why, so just blackouts and stuff. I was referred to the neurologist who did a physical examination and said that all of the physical symptoms were in my head and that I'm basically making myself have those symptoms as a way of dealing with my Asperger's and anxiety that comes with it. I was a bit upset by that response. I've been seeing a psychotherapist for a few months and she does seem quite in tune to sort of me and my needs, and then they came back with suggestions that it could be something called Asperger's epilepsy, and also about sensory integration disorder and about sort of being overwhelmed, getting sensory overload and stuff, which I can relate to. I know that I experienced that.
You did have a bit of a problem yesterday, didn't you?
Yeah.
You were in the office and I actually, a colleague came up and said, Dawn, Helen's actually having a problem with her head hurting. She might really appreciate a friendly face.
It was a sensory overload, but it was heat. Whereas I'd been trying to work out what noise had triggered it, it wasn't. It was the fact that the room had gotten airless and warm, and I'd been so distracted by the fact that the phone was going, there was a visitor, I this and that, and I hadn't stopped long enough to work out what it was.
I haven't had it diagnosed, but it was suggested I've probably got ADD, attention deficit disorder, which I think is quite common, people on the spectrum, and sensory issues, which comes out a lot to people on the spectrum. Everything's heightened, so my sense of smell, bright lights. There's not a huge amount else that you can use, apart from the obvious things, sunglasses, headphones, and just making people aware, I suppose, and knowing what you can deal with. So being in the kitchen often, not the smells of foods and things, but putting things in the dishwasher or taking things out of the dishwasher if the stuff is dirty, or changing the bin, stuff like that I can't really deal with, so I have to get my husband to do it.
I take different medications. I feel differently about the different medications I take. I've got an underactive thyroid, so I take medication for that. I do also take antidepressants. I don't really want to take them. I feel like they, cover, I'm not myself, they change who I am.
O judo para ti é o que dá-te confiança, se faz-te sentir bem. O que é que achas que o judo te dá?
Dá energia e também
alegres.
Gostas? Ficas feliz no jogo?
Sim. É tanta força.
Sim.
Mas ao mesmo tempo para relaxar algumas coisas. On the floor and...
Community connectedness is a really important topic. It's all about being in a social environment. Going out into the community requires being part of a social group or being amongst other people.
A community is the people who live around you. It can be family, friends, neighbours. It's something that is very important to me because I don't really feel like I'm a part of things sometimes. I work locally, just part-time. I'm at college, so I'm with people all day when I'm there. And it probably took me a little bit longer than other people to kind of fit in and get to know other people. But now I actually have some very good friends on my course.
There's no real community feel to the area I live in. I don't know any of my neighbours' names. It was very much when I was at university. There was such a community feel there in multiple different ways. We were very much this little family that kind of, we supported each other, we worked together, and that was something that really helped me in those years to learn things, to come out of my shell around people. But I think it's very hard to recapture that kind of thing.
Often I am concerned that I'm not integrating as much as I should. One thing I did manage to join was scuba diving, and I did see that through to a trip. We went away to Plymouth, and that's where they do the training, you know, and I actually saw 2 wrecks. I mean, I did find it hard, I guess, to integrate into the group. But that's mainly because I haven't maybe had the practice that, you know, at college or, you know, as much as most people do.
My name is Omi FB and I live in Camberwell. I like working with money float, items sold and put the fold in tablecloths and menu. I like my boyfriend, I like my sister, and I like uncle, and I like my mum.
Personal safety is an area of importance for women with autism because being safe does involve a certain amount of planning ahead, which can be an issue for women with autism, and also it does require, in a lot of situations, being able to read the situation.
Well, I needed cash, so I went to the cash point, and while I was there, a group of teenagers all kind of gathered round, and I just thought, whatever money they ask for, I have to give it to them and run away. And nothing happened, and I got my cash and I went, and one of them just used the cash point, and I completely misjudged that.
It just makes me a bit wary of travelling on buses in particular. I have a tendency to just sort of stare into space, and then people might think I'm staring at them. If you get the wrong sort of person, they can sort of be a bit aggressive, you know. People have said, well, what are you staring at? It's quite intimidating and a bit scary. Like reading and music are 2 sort of things that I use to try and make it easier.
I liked high school, but it's just when the bullying started, it distressed me and spoilt things for me. My learning distracted me.
I've always had problems with bullying, probably more so from secondary school and then into my work. I let them know that I'd been diagnosed in the hope that maybe that would be better, but it didn't, and I feel like it was done intentionally, and I think given the way that it then proceeded with the sort of bullying aspect, that probably is the case.
I'm a teacher, and say a parent from my school happened to see me and talking about my difficulties or saw me, and if they thought, oh, my child's teacher has, well, they might even see it as she has some sort of disability, or I just have a feeling that some people, not everyone, but some people would be very against it and would question why I was teaching their child and would think I was not capable. It's just that fear, I suppose, at the moment of people finding out and causing a lot of hassle for me.
Standard of living, we look at it in a number of ways. That is, where people live, what they do, having a disposable income, being able to have some degree of control over where you go.
Well, at the moment it's frustrating because I have to live with my parents. But you see, what I really want to do is I want to live independently in London. That's my goal. Because I mean, it's the difficulty of getting the paid work to support myself, and I have finally starting to get interviews for jobs now. So I'm one step forward in that area.
On the institution named Benta, specialists try to create special places. Girls is living in institution, but on the other hand, they could feel like in their personal house. For example, kitchen, toilet, and another places like in our house.
Šokt patinka, spėju, kadangi konkursuose dalyvauja. Tačiau mėgstame.
Ir vaidinti da patinka.
Vaidinimas.
Ir baigiau raštingumą kompiuterinių kursus.
The difficulty with people on the spectrum, I suppose, that if you want to work and get a good income and do well in life, then it's all the extra stresses of communicating at work and all the extra things. But then if you don't work, which some people don't, and get disability allowance and things like that, then just living as the minimum however you can. So it's either the stress and nice things outside of work or the other way around.
Money's a figment of people's imagination. If I literally had a pile of pound coins as my pay, and I had to pay with them and I could see, but I can't. It's figures on an electronic thing somewhere. It doesn't mean anything.
Yes, they love to go to the laundry, they love to do everything because they feel important, they feel needed, and that's completely different of the home, the residential home where they live.
For women with autism, having access to employed or to a specific natural context like factory or any spare time context that all the people share with them is very important. In the case of employment, all the women in the spectrum really needs and enjoy making things that are useful in a space with other people that they don't see all the time.
Future security can be really important, especially for those who need a lot of support as they get older. Where is that support going to come from?
This sense of uncertainty is hugely stressful, not knowing what's going to happen to you. And whereas most of us are able to deal with uncertainty and factor that in, that's much more difficult for people with autism to achieve.
It's knowing within myself that I have some control over my future. I'm in a job now that I feel confident I can say if I want to move on somewhere else, I will get a good reference. I have the experience to go find something. I'm no longer depending on other people to help me out in that way.
But long-term security, that is what worries you. Yeah, when you're up in your 50s, 60s, and if I wasn't around, so if I wasn't around, you would need to think, right, your security would be other people, unless you've got your own family by then.
I mean, I have security now because I have my parents, and in the future I know that I will outlive them. I always knew that when my parents went, I would live near to my brother, wherever he was, and that he would look after me, really. But he died 2 years ago now, so it's left me with, I feel I have quite an uncertain future now. I just need to learn how to do as much for myself as I can, so that maybe I won't be depending on other people.
We used to come here onto other houses to spend weekends to improve the skills for daily lives, like cooking or making beds or putting the washing machine. Thanks for their autonomy, because most of them wants to be independent in the future and they need to work in that. So it's a kind of training.
Religion and spirituality is important to women with autism, not necessarily regarding religious beliefs themselves, which they may or may not have, but regarding their sense of self and the sense of justice, for example, which can affect everything around them.
I believe in God. I wouldn't go around shoving it down people's throats. And I think live and let live. I don't really make judgments on other people, but other people make judgments on me. Well, then I do question it then. Where's God? When things go wrong. But I always think something good comes out of things in the end, you know?
I do believe in things that aren't necessarily proven. I don't know if being autistic makes me more open to that or not. Having an aspect of my life that I will kind of say, I don't know what's happening, I don't know the answer or the reason, is freeing. It reminds me that I'm not in control completely. I will never be in complete control of my own life.
Greta liked to use the computer. She liked to use YouTube to listen Lithuanian artistic songs. She comes, just sit near her computer, this is her workplace, and she's searching the songs. She writes the songs in the CDs, write the name of the song, and she listen. Į parodą, sakė, jūs einat, ir į bažnyčią einat.
Einu.
Ir patinka?
Einu, patinka.
Spirituality and religion for our girls is important because each Sunday we go to the church, and it's like ritual, because it's normal if girl wake up in the morning and on Sunday visits church. Kaip ten tos procedūros, ar atsiklaupėt?
Meldžiamės, klaupiamės ir stojamės. Ir girdžiam, kai kunigs kalba.
Things that give me meaning are possessions, not in like sort of a monetary sense or anything like that, but I feel like the things that I have around me are a definition of who I am.
Estivemos a falar, tu vais à igreja com a tua mãe.
Sim, sim.
Tu disseste que gostas de ler, que é importante para ti.
Sim, sim.
E se consegues dizer porque é que é importante para ti ires lá?
Então é importante Várias vezes com amigos. Conheci Jesus, toda a minha vida mudou. Ele entrou dentro de mim. Eu andava sem esperança.
I never thought I'd make anything of myself. When I was 15, I predicted that by the time I was 21, I'd be homeless and a drug addict. And a lot of that picture in my head came from the way that other people made me feel.
Achievements in life, that would include having a job, having a car, having possessions, but also feeling that one is getting on well, one is getting on with other people well, one is progressing in one's career, one is not encountering prejudice and discrimination.
I've always been interested in art and photography. I particularly like pictures of abandoned or derelict places. I just try to show the things I see and the beauty that I see in these things that others might think is an eyesore. I've been uploading them to the Italian Vogue website, and recently I entered a number of my images into a competition. One of my images was selected to be featured as part of an exhibition.
I am very proud of her. Emily equates that to being proud of myself, but that's not the same thing at all because she's very individual. She's done everything off of her own back.
Patricia has a lot of achievements in her life, but most of them through art. She's paintings are selling. People loves the way that she expresses herself. She prefers to be alone on activities that don't involve other people, but she's very hard worker, and if she has a structure, she always does the things very well.
They like the band very much. They enjoy being on the band. They enjoy very much to go to shows. They are always eager to go abroad and to play everywhere. And it's for them is a question of importance. They feel important.
It's really nice to have a group of women together because autism does present differently in women, I think, to men. And so I think it's really good that we're able to meet and discuss this.
We've both got so much from it. It's really, really helped me to understand things that I hadn't realised were specific to having Asperger's.
The main themes that are sort of creeping through are the underlying stress that the women face on a daily level, but that they're so good at masking the stress, so it's people don't believe them, and quite often the diagnosis itself is questioned.
I think this is the first project where where a number of countries have worked together to look at how autism is in these different countries. This is by no means the end of the story, and we do need to look much more broadly at this issue of autism across Europe, and particularly in autism in women and girls.
If we respect the others, like humans or plants or animals, in this planet there is a space for all of us.
I wonder if this will be the strangest thing you do when you make these films. Well, we watched Robin make sandwiches in her living room on the floor. It's not normal, is it?